Welcome back to Recap Time. Today, let's dive into a 2014 crime thriller called The Drop. The movie kicks off by explaining a unique kind of bars known as drop bars. While these bars may seem ordinary, they play a crucial role in helping mobsters launder their illegal money discreetly. Money moves in and out of these places, with a bagman responsible for safely transporting it to its final destination. The bar owners are kept in the dark about when their establishment will act as a drop bar for security reasons. In one such bar, we meet the main character, Bob Saginowski, who works as a bartender. Bob is a quiet guy with a dark past and a hidden tendency for violence beneath his calm exterior. The bar is managed by his cousin Marv but is actually owned by the Chechen Mafia. A group of older patrons is enjoying their time, toasting to their late friend Richie Wellen, who mysteriously passed away a decade ago. Bob serves them another round as they reminisce. Mark points out that they are running a business, not a charity, when Bob lets an elderly woman drink for free and smoke inside in his absence. Despite Marv's growing frustration, Bob believes he's just being kind, but he ultimately heeds his boss and elder cousin's advice. The audience also learns that Bob is a devout Catholic who frequently attends church. One evening on his way home, Bob hears the pitiful whines of a dog coming from a neighbor's garbage can. Upon investigating, he discovers a severely injured pit bull puppy left to die. The homeowner, Nadia, emerges, curious about the person snooping around her property. Bob describes the situation and pleads with her to help the injured puppy. However, Nadia remains cautious and asks to see his ID. She takes a photo of it and sends it to her friends to make sure Bob won't harm the dog. Together, they bring the puppy inside to take care of its injuries. The puppy has several cuts and bruises, suggesting it was severely beaten. But fortunately, the wounds aren't too deep. While talking, Bob notices bruises on Nadia's neck. It turns out Nadia works as a waitress and has experience in animal rescue. They agree that an animal rescue might not be the best place for the dog, especially since Bob has already taken a liking to it. Bob convinces Nadia to look after the dog temporarily until he can retrieve it in 2 days. Meanwhile, at the bar, two brothers are nervously discussing a plan to rob Marv's bar. The older brother is confident, believing they need to prove their ability to handle high-stakes situations like this to their boss. The younger brother, a drug addict, is scared, knowing that the bar is a drop bar run by the fearsome Chechen Mafia. However, the older brother convinces him. The scene shifts back to the bar, revealing that the establishment has been held up by masked robbers just before closing time. The thieves brandish their guns, instructing Marv to fill a bag with all the money. Despite Marv's composed warning that they are messing with the wrong people and will soon regret their actions, he is forced by the weapon to comply with their demands. During the heist, Bob notices that one of the robbers has a broken watch. After the robbery, they find out that the bar staff member, Randy, has been fatally beaten in the backyard. Subsequently, a detective named Torres arrives to conduct an investigation. He recognizes Bob as they have attended the same church for years but have never spoken. During the inquiry, Bob doesn't have much information to provide since the robbers were fully covered. However, he tells the detective about the broken watch that stopped at 6.15. It is also disclosed that the stolen money amounts to approximately $5,000. Detective Torres wonders why Bob always bypasses the communion line at church, to which Bob initially objects. When Torres probes further, Bob insists it isn't. Although dishonest, Bob feels ashamed to admit his sordid past, so he avoids taking communion to dodge confession. Marv becomes incensed when he learns that Bob divulged the detail about the broken watch during the investigation, fearing the Chechen's wrath, and asks Nadia to accompany him to a pet store for supplies, as he has never owned a dog before. Nadia selects some bowls, a leash, a poop bag, and a comprehensive pet care manual. Bob suggests naming the puppy Rocco, though he is partial to the name Mike. Nadia prefers Rocco, but thinks Mike is a terrible name for a dog. They create a name tag for Rocco, while Bob maintains that Mike is superior. The following morning at church, Bob is astonished to find a statue of Saint Rocco accompanied by a dog. After they finish shopping, Bob drops Nadia off at home, unaware that a thug named Eric Deeds is spying on them from afar. One morning, as the cousins shovel snow in the backyard, they are approached by Kafka, the Chechen Mafia boss who owns the bar. Kafka reveals that he has captured one of the men responsible for the robbery. The man has been brutally tortured, gagged, and impaled through his foot, which is bolted to the van floor. Kafka inquires if Marv and Bob recognize the man, and they both deny any knowledge. Kafka also questions why the police knew about the broken watch, prompting Bob to apologize profusely. Kafka menacingly instructs Marv to recover the money before speeding away. Marv feels endangered, as if he already knew how to retrieve the stolen funds. It would suggest that he was involved in the robbery. Concurrently, during his investigation, Detective Torres uncovers evidence that Marv lost his bar to a Chechen monster named Papa Yumorov, Shaka's father, 10 years prior. He discusses this with a colleague from the Major Crime Administration, questioning whether they intend to bring Papa Yumorov down. On the other hand, the colleague replies that they are too influential to be taken down and humorously adds that Torres is welcome to pursue them. It's entirely up to him. Bob finds enjoyment in Rocco's companionship. However, as a novice in dog care, Bob struggles as Rocco urinates throughout the house, necessitating constant cleanup. One morning in a dog park, Bob plays with Rocco when Nadia, who is exercising, approaches him. Having lost her night shift at work, Nadia proposes taking care of Rocco for extra income. Bob, already attracted to Nadia, readily accepts the offer, and they exchange contact information. After they part ways, Eric Deeds appears and comments on Bob's nice dog. Suspicious of Eric's appearance, Bob takes Rocco and leaves. Marv resides with his sister, Dottie, while their father is in a nursing home, brain dead and reliant on a machine to prolong his life. The siblings discuss their father's situation. Dottie, exhausted by the excessive spending on their father's care, suggests they end his life, allowing them to enjoy their own, like traveling to Europe. Marv vehemently disagrees, believing they must devote their lives to their father since they are unwilling to sacrifice their comfort by caring for him personally. Marv meets with one of the robbers, Fitz, revealing his involvement in the heist. Marv chastises Fitz, not only for his brother's foolishness in wearing a broken watch, but also for the severe beating of Randy, which necessitated calling an ambulance and subsequently involving the police. Marv mentions that their bar will soon become a drop bar and advises Fitz to execute the next robbery more cleanly. Elsewhere, a suspicious-looking stranger in a car asks Marv for directions to the hospital. Marv provides the information but remains wary of the man. Back at Bob's house, he speaks to Rocco, apologizing for being unable to take him out that day. A knock on the door reveals Eric, who rudely invites himself inside. He inquires about the location of the puppy, leaving Bob confused. Eric claims ownership of the dog, but Bob resists. Eric asserts that if Bob truly owns the dog, he must have a security chip number and license as required by law. He proceeds to explain what a security chip is, a device implanted in a dog's body to identify the owner. Eric then presents his security chip serial number, implying that he is the rightful owner. Bob maintains that Rocco is his, arguing that Eric consistently mistreats the dog. However, Eric threatens to accuse Bob in front of the police. Bob asks what Eric wants, but he vaguely threatens Bob, remarking on the sunny weather and its unpredictability before taking Bob's umbrella and departing. Bob and Nadia's relationship strengthens thanks to Rocco. As they converse in a cafe, Nadia admits that Bob is the first person not to interrogate her about the bruises on her neck. Bob contends that it is her private matter and he is not present to judge her. Nonetheless, Nadia reveals her troubled past. She slashed her neck with a potato peeler during a drug-induced episode, despising her addicted self and wanting to end her life. Miraculously, she survived and began a normal, meaningful existence. At the bar, Marv expresses his anxiety to Bob about the peculiar man who asked for directions, fearing his life might be in danger. Marv is still haunted by losing his bar to Shavka Bumarov after 10 long years, or as he puts it, 8.5 years. Marv harbors deep self-loathing, and this shapes his life experiences. Bob is startled to discover something grotesque in a trash bag, a severed hand accompanied by blood-soaked money. The stolen money has been returned along with one of the robbers' broken watches and the dismembered hand. They are perplexed about who returned the money and the reason behind it. Bob takes the severed hand into the bar and expertly wraps it, while Marv marvels at his proficiency as if he has done it countless times before. During this, Eric unexpectedly bargains into the bar since they had forgotten to lock the door. Marv tries to shoo Eric away, claiming they are closed. As Bob narrowly avoids detection, Eric greets him and departs, despite his curiosity about what the pair is up to. Marv is puzzled by the connection between Bob and Eric. When Bob explains that Eric claims to own Rocco, Marv becomes increasingly concerned. It is revealed that Eric is a local thug, rumored to have killed Richie Wellen, the man to whom a toast was made at the movie's beginning. Marv discloses to Bob that Eric has a history of incarceration and time spent in a mental institution, urging him not to engage with Eric. However, Bob seems more surprised than scared by this revelation. He places the severed hand in a duffel bag and exits. Upon Bob's departure, Marv breaks down in tears and begins cleaning the blood from the money to hand over to the Chechens. Bob plays with Rocco and disposes of the wrapped-up limb in a river. Detective Torres approaches Bob, asking if he knows about Eric deeds, which Bob denies. Later, the Chechens visit the bar to retrieve the stolen money. Chaka also informs them that his bar will serve as the drop bar on the night of the Super Bowl. Eric confronts Bob, inquiring about Nadia and whether she has harmed herself recently. The inquiry frightens Nadia, causing her to flee and leaving Bob puzzled. Meanwhile, Marv encounters Fitz, who requests to enter the car. Fitz is terrified, having lost his brother in a similar situation. He wants to confirm that Marv's trunk isn't lined with plastic and displays his handgun. Marv opens the trunk, revealing it to be empty. Satisfied, Fitz climbs in, and they drive away. Marv proposes the robbery on Super Bowl night, when a significant amount of money will be present at the bar, but Fitz declines the offer, only wanting to stay alive. Marv has Fitz exit the car and shut the trunk. As Fitz complies nervously, Marv runs him over repeatedly, killing him instantly. Marv then abandons the scene, switches cars, and drives away. In the next scene, Bob and Nadia reconcile, and Nadia apologizes for her earlier behavior. She confesses to Bob that she and Eric used to be a couple. At first Eric was kind, but she eventually realized how terrible he was, leading to their breakup. Nadia also warns Bob that Deeds is the one who murdered Richie Welland, which Bob is already aware of. Later, Marv meets with Deeds in a diner, informing him that Bob is frightened of him. Eric states that he desires more respect from Bob, or else there will be significant trouble. Marv, however, reassures him, claiming to have a solution that benefits everyone. In reality, Marv plans to involve Fitz in the Super Bowl heist instead of Eric, distracting Eric enough to stop him from bothering Bob. Detective Torres meets with an earlier colleague and receives Eric's psychiatric file, which contains something that captures his interest. At home, Bob calls for Rocco, but receives no response, indicating that Eric has been there. Bob confronts Eric, asking him to back off and asserting that he will not return Rocco. In response, Eric demands $10,000 for Bob to keep Rocco, but Bob refuses, claiming the sum is unaffordable. Marv informs Bob that he will not be present at the bar during the Super Bowl. Bob is doubtful, believing that Marv is planning something reckless that they won't be able to clean up. Haunted by the days when he was respected, before losing the bar to Chufka, becomes furious. He is paranoid that Bob always gives Marv's old stool to an elderly lady to humiliate him. Bob counters that it's just a stool and holds no significance. Back at the bar, Bob hides $10,000 Rocco and a pistol in the basement. Meanwhile, Eric breaks into Nadia's home, coercing her to accompany him to Marv's bar. Nadia decides not to provoke the thugs and follows their instructions. Bob is disappointed to see them at the bar that night, and Nadia feels embarrassed. Marv calls Eric, discovering he's already at the bar due to the commotion. He warns Eric not to underestimate the seemingly gentle Bob. Marv prepares his trunk with plastic, parking 2 blocks away to watch the unfolding plan. Various mob groups bring money, and eventually the bar clears out, leaving only Eric and Nadia. Eric shows his gun to Nadia before going outside to smoke. Tearfully, Nadia warns Bob that Deeds plans to shoot him. Bob offers money for Rocco, but Eric asks about Nadia's worth and insists on the money being in the safe. It's revealed that Marv had a severe gambling problem, and Richie was one of many who owed him money. When Richie paid Marv back after winning at the casino, it wasn't enough to cover Marv's debt. To keep anyone from finding out, Bob shot Richie twice in the face. When Eric begins to respond, Bob shoots him twice in the face, telling Nadia she can leave. The Chechens dispose of Eric's body. Shufka offers Bob the bar, renaming it Bob's Bar. Marv is killed outside, and Detective Torres arrives to investigate. Torres informs Bob about the upcoming church sale and suspects him in Richie Welland's murder and Eric's disappearance. Bob takes Rocco to Nadia's house, apologizing for his past and explaining he had to kill Eric to prevent future blackmail. Nadia, scared yet in love, agrees to hang out. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, and if not, hit dislike twice, just to be sure. Watch the whole movie. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more videos like this.